Final Fantasy 15, a fantasy based on reality. Out of all of the games in the series thus far, Final Fantasy 15's world is one we could probably relate to most. I'm guessing to get as much reality into this game as humanly possible, Square Enix did so many collaborations for the game. And as amusing as it is to see Noctis wearing a Cup Noodle hat, it is a bit ridiculous to see so many brands promoted in a series such as Final Fantasy. But Final Fantasy 15 did it, and quite possibly overdid it. Product placements are no stranger to video games. Midnight Club Los Angeles is full of this, and it somehow makes the world more realistic. GameStop stores, iTunes billboards, T-Mobile phones. It's probably my nostalgia for the time, but there's just something so satisfying about seeing these brands we all recognize. Ducatis and Jeeps fit well into the world of Tomb Raider Legend. Nathan Drake promoting Subway for exclusive items to use in Uncharted 3's multiplayer mode was extremely bizarre, but is so memorable because of it. Even the Burger King trilogy of video games is one giant product advertisement. Racing around a Burger King restaurant, shelling out Whoppers and other Burger King items to hungry civilians like it's nothing. It's totally out there, yet seeing the brands we're all familiar with gets an immediate reaction from us. Perhaps Square Enix was desperate to recoup the development costs Final Fantasy 15 burned in their pocket. The game originally started out as Final Fantasy 13 Versus for the PlayStation 3. Development began in 2006 before it was changed to a mainline Final Fantasy title 6 years later. Directors were changed, the story, characters, and scenes were rewritten, repurposed, or dropped altogether. And after the game came out, its planned DLC releases were cut in half due to a shift within Square Enix. So surely Square Enix had to have some kind of backup. Like, there's just something odd about seeing that American Express logo plastered on the window of these convenience stores. I guess in the world of Final Fantasy 15, it doesn't matter that it's called American Express. To them, it's just a name. But at least American Express is easily accepted at most places there. But in reality, if you wanted a free copy of Final Fantasy 15 to play in Japan, all you had to do was open a brand new American Express Gold Card or Business Gold Card before August 31st, 2016. For the first 100 to do so, those lucky people received a Play Arts Kai Noctis figurine. Now that you had your new credit card and figurine, those who spent over 150,000 yen within 3 months were rewarded with a 10,000 yen gift card featuring the design of one of 5 Final Fantasy 15 characters. After all, nothing says going into credit card debt better than Final Fantasy 15. Throughout the game, the guys will need to set up camp at various points. This is where they can relax, get to know one another, and enjoy the super satisfying and delicious looking dishes Ignis cooks up. But none of this would be possible without Coleman products. Coleman is widely known for their camping gear, and about everything the group uses is branded with its iconic logo. From the tent, chairs, table and cookware, you will find the iconic logo on all of these items. It's almost like these camping sessions were included because of this collaboration. It's common to see brands advertised in video games, but what happens when a video game advertises another video game? It's nothing new, but has been relatively more common thanks to the popularity of something like Fortnite. However, Final Fantasy and Assassin's Creed took this to a new and more interesting level. From August 31st, 2017 to January 31st, 2018, an update in Final Fantasy 15 gave players an excuse to travel back to the town of Lestalem for the Assassin's Festival. Festival banners and signs decked the town. It featured a new story to get involved in. Gameplay inspired by Assassin's Creed includes stealth and climbing segments, and there were opportunities to win exclusive Assassin's Creed goodies such as the Medjay Assassin's robes for the entire party to wear. But even if you didn't or weren't able to attend the event, the game does include the hooded and non-hooded versions of the Master Assassin's robe for Noctis to wear. And that wasn't even the first time Final Fantasy and Assassin's Creed collaborated. Back then, Final Fantasy 13-2 had a DLC outfit from Assassin's Creed Revelations for purchase, but Final Fantasy 15's event would be major, and Assassin's Creed would return the favor. Through a free update in December 2017, players of Assassin's Creed Origins were able to complete a mission called A Gift from the Gods, which would unlock Final Fantasy 15 inspired equipment. Like the limited time Assassin's Festival event in Final Fantasy XV, this mission in Origins would later be patched out and removed after a certain amount of time, effectively erasing one of the more interesting and surprising collaborations out there. While not nearly as exciting, we couldn't talk about the Assassin's Creed collaboration without mentioning a few other collaborations that were later patched into the game. There are 2 additional missions to participate in. The first is a crossover with the Terror Wars franchise, and the second is with Square Enix's own MMORPG, Final Fantasy XIV. Both feature their own story content, and completing each quest unlocks some exclusive goodies. And then back when the Tomb Raider IP was owned by Square Enix, Shadow of the Tomb Raider had an unusual crossover. There are a number of music tracks from the game to be played during car rides, and if you play Final Fantasy XV multiplayer comrades, Lara's main outfit in that game can be worn on your created character. Now, if the Final Fantasy series is known for one thing, especially in its later releases, it's the fashion, especially from Final Fantasy VII on up. You know you're playing a Square Enix game when the characters stand out from the crowd with unrealistic battle outfits and insane hairstyles that would take hours to achieve in real life. For the main cast of Final Fantasy XV, the outfits were created by Rowan, a popular clothing company in Japan whose brand focuses on dark, rock, and avant-garde styles. Though unlike many of the product placements you come across, Rowan wasn't talked about or advertised in-game. This partnership originates from Final Fantasy XV's early days as Final Fantasy XIII Versus. Rowan was still partnered to create the outfits for the main characters, and their designs made it all the way into the final version of the game. If you happen to absolutely love the styles of Noctis and Prompto, and were willing to shell out hundreds to thousands of dollars for everything, you could purchase the same outfits worn by the characters on the Rowan website in 2016. This wasn't the first time an actual fashion brand collaborated with Final Fantasy. Characters from Final Fantasy XIII-2 advertised the 2012 Spring-Summer collection of Prada's menswear in a 12-page feature in an issue of Arena Hame Plus magazine. Later, Lightning herself would model for Louis Vuitton in their 2016 Spring-Summer line. But it was most surprising when it came to Vivienne Westwood. It's a name you may have heard about, at least if you have any knowledge of the fashion industry. And yet somehow this luxury fashion brand plays somewhat of a crucial role in the game's story. Because Noctis and Lunafreya were to get married, Lunafreya's wedding dress in-game is based on an actual real design by Vivienne Westwood. It's called the Sueno wedding dress and is one of the biggest topics talked about among the people in anticipation for their big day. Once you make it all the way to Altissia, one of the game's side quests will have you visiting an actual Vivienne Westwood store to see the dress on display for yourself. Since Lady Lunafreya is royalty, she's treated like a celebrity, so it makes sense to only have the best of the best for her big day. Cup Noodle is probably one of the more notable and memorable product placements out of the entire game. In Japan, Final Fantasy XV even received this commercial where characters and items were replaced with Cup Noodle, and it's just hilarious. Free DLC allowed Noctis to wear the iconic cup on his head, and as ridiculous as it looks, nothing can top it. From the outer packaging to the partially open paper lid exposing its delicious insides, this DLC will have you laughing every time. But Final Fantasy XV takes this even further. Throughout the open world, Cup Noodle has plenty of advertising. From billboards to trucks driving on the road with their logo, in Lestalem, Cup Noodle has one of these trucks set up to sell Noctis actual cup noodle to eat. There's even an entire side quest devoted to the brand on creating the perfect cup of cup noodle. And if that's not cringy enough, perhaps Gladio casually advertising the brand will be.
There's nothing else like them. They're easy to make whenever you've got a craving, and they're delicious to boot. I'll never forget my first time. Something dawned on me when I was on my own. Any food you make tastes better when you use good ingredients, right? Then, if you take something already delicious like cup noodles and add in the finest, freshest ingredients, what do you get? The ultimate flavor experience.
In order to create the ultimate cup noodle, the guys need to source the chosen ingredient, and then, and only then, will cup noodle be the perfect gourmet dish. And the collaborations don't just stop with the game. For the game's tie-in prequel film Kingsglaive Final Fantasy XV, the royal family's transport is a custom Audi R8 Star of Lucius, and this car gets a ton of screen time in the film, with plenty of shots showing the car's design and Audi's logo. Even throughout the city there are Audi billboards advertising the brand. In the real world, if you had around $470,000 and lived in Japan, you could sign up for a lottery to win this unique one-of-a-kind car. All these years later, and Final Fantasy XV's product placements are still something to laugh at. It's one thing for these brands to be in a world based on ours, but in a fantasy world, even if it's based on reality, is way out there. Yet it's so amusing to see. While there haven't been many in-game collaborations between main Final Fantasy titles and whatever company out there since, it's probably one of the few times we'll see an extreme number of products promoted in its games. What did you think of all the product placement in Final Fantasy XV? Were you amused, or was it just a bit too much? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe for future content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.